Hi, welcome to the My Driver Log website training class. This is a new website that has been designed for drivers and admins to use to review, edit their logbooks. This is also a mobile-friendly website, so you can access this using your phone. To begin, you will be set up with a driver ID that the admin has set up for you. That's the ID that you use to start the vehicle. And you will be given a password to log into this website. The first time you log into this website, you will be forced to reset your password. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's enter in our driver ID, and then we'll enter in our DOT number. And this is the first time we're entering our temporary password. Enter that in and hit login. Once you reset your password, you'll also be setting the password hint that will help you remember what your password is. So you can always click that later after you've reset it. So let's go ahead and click login. I'm going to say no to that. You're going to be brought into the password change page. We'll enter in the password we used, and now we'll enter a new one. You can create this. Has to be a minimum of 4 characters, and it cannot be the same as your driver ID. Enter it again, and then you can enter in a password hint that will hopefully help you remember what your password is. And when you're ready, just tap Set Password Hint. It will let you know that it's done successfully, and we are done. We can go back, and we're brought right into the main dashboard screen. And here you'll see you have 2 apps, Driver Log and DVIR. You have a log off button, and you also have a training button. If you need further training, we do have free go-to training sessions where you can register. You would just click on the training button, and you need to select what you're registering for Sauck and Touch or Navman. There are dates listed here that you can register for. It's free. You'll register, and then you'll get an email confirming, and then the day of you'll also get an email confirming, reminding you that the training class will begin. We'll hit back. So let's begin. If you are activated for logs, you will be able to tap the Driver Log app icon. And in this screen you'll see that it's very similar to the touch display where we show your center information, the progress screen, your hours of HOS hours, what regulations you're following, your remaining hours, your name at the top, your current status, how long you've been in that status, and how many hours you have available for tomorrow, which is for the 70-hour rule. In here you'll see you have, to the left of the progress screen, you have View Edit, Approve Admin Edits, Recap Totals, Inspection Mode, and Sign Logs. Let's begin by going into the View Edit screen. And in here we're brought to our current day's log. Very similar to the touch where you have your graph displayed up at the top. You have duty detail section with all your duty details listed below pertaining to the graph. You have a little asset table that shows you what asset you've been driving, the distance, and so forth. And if you have any violations, the violations are also displayed at the bottom. Up at the top you'll see a back button that'll bring you back to the home screen. You can add a duty event, or you can also copy events from one day to another. This is something new here. We have a hide periodic events. You'll notice on your logs there's lots of periodic events that you're seeing, and kind of makes your log really long, so you can check the hide periodic events if you want to clear those from being seen when you're looking at it on the website. To navigate to yesterday's log, just tap Previous, and you'll see that the date changed to May 10th, and I can keep tapping that, going back and so on. Or I can hit Next and move forward in the day. So in here I have, looking at May 7th log, I see that it's pink, which means that I have some admin edits that I need to approve. If I want to try and add a duty event to this day, by clicking Add Duty Event, you're going to see a pop-up that says you cannot edit logs while there are unresolved admin edits. That means you have to go back and resolve the admin edits first. So we'll say OK, we'll hit back, we're brought back to the progress screen, and now you can see I have 5 that I need to address. So we'll tap that first, and that brings us to the Approve Admin Changes screen. The first log, May 7th, is going to show up, and it shows me my original log shows I was off duty all day. However, lower in the proposed section, I can see that the admin made a whole bunch of events on my log. I can also expand by tapping the expand button to view the actual events and the details. And I can move these columns a little bit if you want, just by using your cursor and moving them slightly so you can see the complete verbiage. If I scroll down, I'll have a summary table that shows the original hours, the revised hours. Everything that was changed is always in pink. So I can either accept or decline. I'm going to accept. I'll get a pop-up that says, are you approve all admin changes? Yes, or okay. And then the next day's log where the admin made changes shows up. May 8th is the next one. Again, I'm going to look at that and say, okay, that's fine, I will accept. Once I accept, then that day's log becomes my logbook. My logbook gets updated. So now I've cleaned up all the approved admin edits, and now I can go back to the View Edit screen where I was before, and I can go in and add a duty event. When I do, I get this pop-up. I have to select a time. So let's say I want to go add a new event at 10 o'clock, and I want to set myself to on duty. And when I hit that on duty button, you get a new screen that has further detail that you have to fill in. So we filled in our 10 o'clock. It's already going to default to the asset I had selected, but if you want to change it, you can. Or you could type the words in, such as no asset, if you want. I already selected my status, but I could change it if I wanted to. Location, it's going to default and bring in the last location that was in the previous event. I could change it though if I wanted to. I can select a comment. I can freeform a comment and enter it using my keyboard. I'm going to leave my regulation set alone, but if I wanted to change it, I could, and select Canada, for example. My company is Sauk and Bethlehem. If I wanted to change it, I could either select it from the list. Most of the time, most drivers, when they work for a third-party company, they'll have already entered in the address that they work for and company name, and then they can just select it from there. If I needed to change the address, I could here as well. Co-driver, if you had a co-driver, you can select from the names in the list. Trip ID, you can enter. And reason modified, you must select a reason modified. I'll say non-driving event. And then notes, you have to have at least 4 characters. I'm just going to put in demo. But in here you would put something meaningful. And then you would save. Once you've created that, you'll see it's listed right here, and it's in green. You'll see enter comments here. This is where I put in my freeform. If I had selected, I could even just click on this row again, and you'll notice down at the bottom of the screen you have a few more icons: edit, duty, detail, or delete event. But let's say I want to add to it. I can also right mouse click on it and get this little pop up and get a few fields in read mode so I can see what I entered, and I can also select edit from here. And maybe at this time I want to select comment from the list, repair, for example, and we'll save, and you'll see that that shows up right there. I'm done editing this log, so I can go back and move to the next item. Let's go back into View Edit for a moment. Let's say I wanted to copy this day's log to a different day. I can select copy events. I'll get a little calendar, and any of the days listed here that are in darker color versus the grayed out days, it means I can copy it too. So if I click on the 3rd, it will allow me to copy to that day and the 2nd, but if I try copying to the 10th, it says you may not copy events to a day that already has events, okay? And I also can't copy to a day in the future. So I'm going to copy this day's log to the 2nd and the 3rd. I have to select a reason. I'm just going to say other, and then I have to put in some notes explaining why. And only the approved events will be copied. If you had any pending events, those would not be copied over. And I'll say copy events. So now if we went to those days, quickly navigating through, those events are populated on that day. So it's quite easy to do and saves you some time. Let's go back to our main screen. And you'll notice that maybe depending on the things you've done, your hours remaining has changed slightly. It kind of depends on what you've edited. So from the progress screen, we're going to go back into View Edit for a moment. And this was the event we created. I want to go back into that event by clicking on it, right mouse clicking, and then hit Edit. Down in the company information and address, if you were working for a third party and this is the first time you're entering information in and that company is not listed here, all you have to do is highlight the existing company, press the delete button on your keyboard, and enter in the new company name. And then you can enter in their address as well. Let's make one up. 22 Main Street. PA. And then tap Save. Of course, you're going to be prompted to enter in a reason and notes. Entering new address. And save. So now the next time you add another event, and let's go ahead and do that because we created an on-duty event, let's now create an off-duty event. So I could either hit Add Duty Detail and enter in the time and an off-duty event, or I could just take my cursor and line it up on the graph across from the off-duty row and left mouse click, and I'll get the same pop-up. So in here, I'll say no asset, I'll keep everything the same, but look at the company. You can change that by selecting the drop-down and then going to find my test company that we created. It would be listed in here. Your list is not going to be as long as mine. And then once you select that, the address will also auto-populate and we'll save. So now we've created our on-duty event and our off-duty event. Pretty simple. Let's go back to our main screen. From the home screen, let's say I wanted to look at my summary totals for the week. I can go over to my recap total section, and in here, everything that you see on the screen is read mode. It's showing you each of the days, how many hours you worked, how many hours on off duty, sleep or birth, driving, on duty not driving, and how many miles you've gone. So it's a quick recap of your totals for the week. Let's tap back. Going into the inspection mode screen, when you first come into the screen, it takes a moment to load, but once it loads, it's going to display your 8 days of driver log data, and if you were following Canada, it would show 14 days. So if I scroll down, you'll see I have all my graphs. If I want to look at the details pertaining to each of these days, I will just tap the expand button. When you do, you'll have this header information up at the top of the screen. This is a header record for the entire week showing all the requirements that FMCSA has defined. The carrier name, DOT, driver, license number, and so forth. But as we scroll down, you can see each day's graph and all the events listed for each day. If you wanted to collapse, you can do so and clean up the screen and only just see the graph. If you wanted to print your log, we're going to go back to the main screen. You could have done it from there too, but you can tap the menu button and then select Export as PDF. And when you do, the system will download your logbook as a PDF. It'll most likely be in the lower left corner of your screen, and you can click on that. You have to have Adobe loaded on your PC. You'll see your driver log PDF just like in the old My Driver Log website, and you can right mouse click and you can print if you wanted to print it out. To close out, just close out that tab. You'll notice it opened up in its own tab. And then you'll have a paper copy of your logbook. If we wanted to sign our logbook for today, we can tap the Sign Logs button. And in this screen, you're going to notice that there's two separate sections. The first section, titled Last 8 Days, or 14 if you're following Canada, so you'll either see a list of 8 or a list of 14. You can sign those days' logs simply by placing a check mark across from the day, and when you're happy with that, you can say Sign Selected. When you do, a pop-up will appear letting you know the 2 days that you've selected, and you will tap I agree or not ready. Not ready will not put a driver approved comment on your logbook. But if you do select I agree, you'll notice that those 2 days become grayed out. You can't undo the check mark. These 2 days logs now have a comment of driver approved on them. And if we go take a quick look to look at them, we can go back to the menu, come back into it. I want to just jump to that day. Actually, if I'm in the graph, I can jump to that date by tapping. You have to be in the graph and hit jump to date, and then quickly you'll get a calendar. I can select the 5th, and we're on the 5th, May 5th's log, and you'll see that because I signed that day's log, there's an automatic driver approved comment with a status of off duty on that day. And so that log is in great shape. Let's go back and go back into Sign Logs for a moment. The bottom section of the screen are all your other days that are not signed. And hopefully your list is not as long as mine, but if you were off duty for 2 days and you weren't driving a vehicle and you haven't been on a vehicle yet, you could pull up the website and just simply put a check mark in these days and tap your Sign Selected, and you say I agree, and now those days will have a driver approved comment. This table doesn't just include off-duty days, it includes any days where there is no driver approved comment, where a log is unsigned. So it's kind of nice that you can access this now. This is a new feature. Let's go back to our home screen. Within here, again, we've gone through the recap, inspection mode, sign logs, approve admin edits, and view edit. There's a few other things that you're going to need to know, and that is the menu. You have a view summary option where you can see your total hours for the last 30 days. We default to the last 30, but you can change this by using the calendar feature, and maybe you want to go back a few other months back and change those dates, so you can do that and rerun the report. You can also go to the View Audit Trail, and this is a report that shows any changes that were made to your log, who changed it, when they changed it, where they changed it from. So all the data that's recorded from the system shows up as system automated. That's electronically recorded data. However, if anyone went into your log and changed anything, we also show their name, where they changed it from, whether it was from the portal or the My Driver Log website, and whether you approved it or not. As a driver, you obviously have to approve changes that the admin made. If there were any deletions, there will be a strike through, like this example. So it's kind of nice to be able to come in here, and you can scroll to the right because it does continue on, and there's a lot of columns in this screen. We record everything, but at least you know that you can come here and take a look in case you question anything. We're in the Events tab, but there's also a Distance Traveled. So if there were any edits to the miles, you'll see that here. And the change I did previously recorded who I was, when, the date and time I made the change, and what I did. And also for personal conveyance, we record any changes that were edited for personal conveyance recording. So let's go back and back to our menu. We talked about the My Profile screen. That's where you change your passwords. Export as PDF, we talked about. Send to, if you want to send your driver log via email or fax, you may do so. When you hit email, you'll get this little pop-up where you need to enter the recipient's email address and then tap Email Log, and the PDF will be sent. Or you can fax it by entering the fax number. The same thing will happen. Entering the fax, the log book will be sent to that address. There's also a Help menu where you can view any documents that we've put up here, training materials. Currently, the newest one that you're going to want to look at is the My Driver Log Touch Manual. Some of these other manuals are for Navman and the old My Driver Log website. But as we create new documentation, it will be listed here. Let's talk about edits that are allowed or not allowed. Coming back into Driver Log, go back into the View Edit screen, and let's go to a day where, in this example, the driver left themselves in an on-duty overnight. And that's very typical, and drivers can correct this themselves without having to go to the admin. The biggest question is, how do I correct it? Well, if you left yourself in on-duty, not driving status all night long, you can come into the website and find where you went wrong, go back to the day where it happened, and in this example, we're on May 8th. I'm going to add a duty event, and I'm going to say that I should have gone off duty at 1400 hours. Off duty. I am going to get all the other detailed events that I need to fill out and make sure that they're accurate. What asset was I on? I already selected off duty. Where did I go off duty? What location? You can change the city and state. You can enter in a comment. You know, maybe you want to say, because you didn't do it before, that you did do a post trip. You can enter additional comments and fill in your reason. Driver error, forgot to log off. Correcting log, whatever you want to say, and then tap Save. When you do, that new event will be added to your record, as you can see here, and it's green because you've manually created an event. And on the graph, the line has jumped up to off duty. Now that was one way to do it. Again, as I've said before, you could have just also tapped on the graph anywhere and created an event. So it's a little shortcut. Either hit Add Duty or tap on the graph. So we corrected that day's log, which will then also correct the next day, which is May 9th. So we would have cleaned up May 9th, and if today was May 9th, that log would look really nice and clean if you didn't have anything, if you had no events on it. So in this other example that we have here, where the driver was in driving status all night long into May 10th. And we can see, because it's not green, that it came from the device. But in this example, this actually came from Relay, which is the multi-team driving app that is on the touch display. So we're going to go back to the previous day and see here where we have a violation. If I want to go to the actual row of the driving event and right mouse click to edit. And notice I am not allowed to change the event time, and I cannot change the status time. So that means I can't really change anything other than the asset or the location and so forth. In this particular example, if you needed a event corrected because it was wrong, you're going to need to go speak to your admin. We'll cancel out of there. Here's another example. April 17th, we're looking at a log where all the data that came, all the data on this log came from the electronic recording device on the bus. As you can see, all the lines on the graph are blue, and blue indicates it came from the device. All the events that you see listed here are all either white or gray, which basically there's no green, there's no red, there's no pink, so again, it all came from the device. In this example where I'm going to go over to this driving row, if I was a driver and I wanted to make a change to this event, I can right mouse click and get the little edit duty detail pop up and then tap edit. And again in here, notice I cannot change the event time or the driving time, but I can fill in all the other stuff. Again, I cannot reduce driving time. Let's say I wanted to add driving time though, for whatever reason. Well, I could either add duty or tap along the graph and left mouse click, and it'll give me all the event information, and then I can just fill in my reason. I'm not going to select that one. Let's select driver and put in some notes and save. And what happens is now a new event was added to your log. It's green because you manually created it, and you have added driving time to your log. Something that you'll also notice on your logs are for whenever you see a sign on, sign off, engine on, engine off, or periodic, you'll notice that if you try to edit it, and we can right mouse click again and get our preliminary screen and then tap edit, you'll see that you are limited as to what you can edit. All the fields that have a white box around it are, you can edit, you can change the regulation set, company address, and so forth, but you cannot change anything else. This is locked down, and this is an FMCSA requirement. And basically what they've said is for any of these types of events that I've mentioned before, drivers cannot change them, and admins actually can't change them either. Let's say you made a mistake and you actually didn't want to create that driving event that we have here in green, and so you want to delete it. So you click on it, and when you do, down at the bottom of the screen, you'll have a delete event. Notice if I click off of that row, that menu actually disappears. Again, the system is intelligent and understands which event you can and cannot edit or delete. So when we tap back on the manual row that we created, the delete button appears. We can click on it. Again, it's going to ask you for a reason. Why are you deleting this record? Maybe driver error. And again, put in a meaningful sentence as to why, and then hit save. And then the row is gone and disappears. I do want to just mention a few quick things here. If you did want to create an event, let's say a non-duty event, and you wanted to indicate adverse conditions, you can go to the comment and find adverse conditions, road or weather, and select it. And when you do, a yellow dot will be displayed on the graph, indicating that that's where you noted adverse conditions. A common question is, from a driver's perspective, that they didn't tap the adverse conditions button on the touch display when they should have, and can I go back and do that later? Yes, you can. You would do exactly what I did. Come into that day's log, find that event, find where you wanted to have tapped the, where you should have tapped the adverse condition button on the touch screen, and just edit that comment and select adverse conditions from the drop down, and it will be added pretty easily. The hide periodic events box, again, as I mentioned before, if you check it, it will hide the periodic event that was listed here before. So take a look right now, and then I'll uncheck it so you can toggle back and forth. Once I uncheck it, the periodic is back, or if I hide it again, it's gone. Again, this is just to help you look at your logs cleanly without seeing those periodics. Those periodic messages are required based on ELD requirements, and basically you will see a periodic event every 30 minutes on your log, and that's basically telling the system this is the location of the bus every 30 minutes while it's moving. Back to our main menu here. One last thing on this, just like the copy events over within a logbook, you can also quickly jump to copy events as well from the main menu and select your dates accordingly and copy. Again, always remember, only approved events will be copied. Let's go back to our home. The correct way to log off the device is to, or log off your MyDriverLog website, is to tap the log off button. This basically logs you off cleanly and is the preferred method. And also, it's worth mentioning that it's best to use this website in Google Chrome and not Internet Explorer. That concludes the training. I hope you've enjoyed. And please remember that there are manuals and video trainings available within the help section of this site. Thank you.